Do we have any others to introduce themselves as on? If not, let's kick it over to Miss Campbell. She is a veteran school counselor at the Mervo High School, which is where my counterpart, Miss Inez Ford, is actually placed. Mervo is one of the largest high schools in Baltimore City, and they have a robust CTE program, and they also offer AP and honors classes. Likewise, Miss Campbell is knowledgeable about a variety of academic offerings throughout the district. She currently works with 10th graders. However, she spent 9 of her 10 years at Mervo High School working with 9th graders. Therefore, she can explain in detail about credits, graduation requirements, and give tips on how students and families can successfully transition into high school. We are so excited to have her tonight, and we are certain that you will enjoy her presentation. So take us away, Ms. Campbell, when you're ready.
Thank you. As I was introduced, I'm Ms. Campbell. I am the 10th grade school counselor at Mergenthaler Vocational Technical High School, better known as Mervo. I've been there 11 years, 9 years as a 9th grade counselor. And I'm going to share my screen and talk to you a little bit about the transition to high school. I'm sorry, it's so dark. I feel like it's so bright in here, but for some reason on camera, I'm dark. Okay, so we talked about this transitioning to high school mindset. You know, when you get to high school, you really start thinking about those post-secondary options and what you're going to prepare for after your, scholastic career. So we really want to start shifting that mindset to what those goals are and how we can prepare you for them. So on my agenda, I'm going to cover a couple different things. We're going to talk about graduation requirements. So once you get to high school, what is it that you need to do to make sure that you can be successful? Some study skills, because studying is imperative at the high school level and beyond. And then how parents and guardians can help support in this transition. So just a little bit about why it's important, why, Tracy has put this together and why we want to talk about it. As you enter high school, starting off with good habits sets the tone. If you start off strong, you're more likely to finish strong. Having that early success also opens doors for you. There's a lot of programs that Baltimore City offers and partners with. Sometimes there's GPA requirements, and sometimes it depends on what your interest is and what you're studying. So we want to make sure that all those doors are open for you as they become available at the school. And also just research has shown, University of Chicago has done tons of research on it. You can Google it and find lots and lots of research, but just to highlight a little bit of that, students that stay on track during 9th grade year are more likely to graduate, 4 times more likely to graduate, regardless of their race, income, and background. And they also back in 2007 found that just failing even one 9th grade class reduces that probability of graduating by 30%. So 9th grade is so important, and that's why we talk about this transition. Just to cover some terms to know that you're going to hear on the next couple of slides. One, you're going to hear the word credit. Credit is what you earn when you successfully pass a class. So earning 60 or above at the completion of a class will earn you a credit. And that's what you're going to hear me talk about when we talk about what you need to do to graduate. We also use the term GPA frequently, and that's a grade point average. So the result of all your final grades are averaged out, and that gives you a GPA. And we'll talk a little bit about why that's important, but I'm sure you know that colleges look at that as well as the programs we talked about that you can enter throughout your high school career. Also, transcript. Transcript's an official record of all your student work. So any course that you take over your high school career are going to be on that transcript, as well as your service learning hours, your class rank, your state assessments. And transcripts are things that colleges look at. They look at that to determine whether you'll be a good fit for their institution. If you have to prove to a job that you're a high school graduate, they're going to ask for a transcript. So it's a permanent record that will follow you way beyond your high school years. And really, you start impacting that transcript the first day you enter into your high school. And then lastly, advanced placement. Again, we usually hear us say, we'll say AP courses, AP programs, and that's a program created by the College Board. These classes offer college level curriculum and assessments. And at the completion of that course, and depending on how well you do an assessment, you can actually earn college credits. So in order to get a high school diploma from the state of Maryland and Baltimore City Public Schools, there's 3 components that you must satisfy. There's 21 specific credits each student must earn, 75 service learning hours that must be completed, and the successful completion of the state standardized tests. And the next couple slides will go through what those specific credits and state tests are. And Tracy, if any questions pop in the chat while I'm going, please just spit them out because I can't see it. I don't want to go too far and not answer them. Thank you.
Mhm.
So some of the credits you need. This slide's going to show what we call the core credits. These are going to be your English, math, science, and social studies. You'll hear, if you're talking about athletes in the NCAA clearinghouse, or sometimes just like a core course GPA. When we use that word core course, we're kind of talking about these core content areas of English, math, science, and social studies. So in order to get a diploma, you do have to earn 4 English credits. They're typically English 1, 2, 3, and 4. Some districts will say English 9, 10, 11, 12, but there's 4 English credits. And each one of those English courses are a prerequisite for the next one. So you have to be successful in English 1 to go on to English 2. You have to be successful in English 2 to go on to English 3, and so forth. If you also take an AP class, like an AP English Lang or English Lit, they can satisfy this requirement as well. In addition to the English, there's 4 math courses. Every student must have an Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2 credit. And then the 4th can be an additional math credit that has to be a higher level math. And I just put some examples on here. Some schools may offer different. I've always been at Mervo, so I'm kind of leaning towards the courses that we offer, but just to give you an example. So some here are probability and stats, pre-calculus, calculus, AP stats, and AP calculus. For science, there's 3 lab credits that every student must earn, and that's biology, chemistry, and physics. And then 3 social study credits, which are American government, US history, and world history. In addition to those core content areas, there's additional credit requirements that every student must have, and one of those is a fine art. This falls into the music or your other typical art that you think of type courses. In my school, we offer survey of music and fundamentals of art, but there is variety across the district, which can include things like band and chorus, just depending on what your individual school offers. There's also a requirement for a tech credit, which currently is Foundations of Computer Science. And every student must earn a half credit in both personal fitness and health. So they are graduation requirements. And then in addition to that, 2 electives. And electives can be pretty much any class that you've taken that we're not specifying in these other categories. So again, for my school, just to give a couple examples, we've offered environmental science, psychology, sociology, African-American studies, SAT prep. So any 2 credits you earn that aren't falling in these other categories. And then in addition to that, there's some options here of how you are a completer. One of them is that you have 2 foreign language credits, and these credits must be at least 1 and 2. So I put the example here, you can take Spanish 1 and 2. Again, schools have a variety of offerings, French 1 and 2, Chinese 1 and 2, but it does have to be 1 and 2. So Spanish 1 and French 1 would not satisfy this requirement. Also, as was stated, Mervo is a CTE school. So if you attend a CTE program, you can be a CTE completer. And each CTE sequence offers either 4 to 6 credits. So upon successful completion of those credits, you can be a CTE completer. And I know Mervo does it this way, and I think a lot of the CTE schools do. Our students actually do both. So you would meet both of these requirements. And then lastly, if you're taking an advanced tech program, you can take 2 advanced tech credits as another option to be a completer. And that outlines the 21 credits. Again, if students will take more than 21 credits, that's just the minimum 21 that every student must have in order to receive a Maryland high school diploma. MSTE also sets as the assessment requirements that every student must successfully complete. And those tests currently are the MCAT for Algebra 1 and English 2 with a minimum score of 725, the HSA in Government with a minimum score of 394, and then the MISA, which is the Maryland Integrated Science Assessment, and that aligns with the biology, chemistry, and physics. All 4 of these tests must be successfully completed in order to earn a diploma. but there is some options that as you enter high school, your school counselor will line out for you. There's some, if maybe you don't do well in the algebra one, but you scored high enough, you can use a combination score. And there's also bridge projects that can be done in order to make sure every student meets this requirement. Kettle, before I keep going on, any questions about the graduation requirements?
Not at this time.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Ms. Campbell, can I just add one thing before you
Yes,
move
ma'am.
on? So the other thing that everybody has to remember about graduation requirements, every time, like when you enter ninth grade, sometimes the rules might change, right? So people that enter ninth grade this year, they may have one set of graduation requirements, and then at some point MSDE may change the rules and say, well, now instead of needing a half a credit of health, you need a whole credit of health. So that's something like every year, it's really important that when you're a ninth grader, that you really understand what the rules are for when you enter high school. Because when you enter high school, there are rules that apply specifically for the year that you enter high school. So that's something that's always really important to stay aware of, and always make sure you stay in constant communication with your counselor so you know what is expected of you as a high school student.
Thank you. So next I'm going to talk just briefly about some study skills, but it's a habit that if you have not already started at the middle school level, it's something we definitely want you to get practicing and get used to doing at the high school level. As we talked about when we talked about graduation requirements, like the Englishes are progressive. You'll take Algebra 1 and then you'll take Algebra 2. So we really want you to have that knowledge in your long-term memory to be able to recall it down the road. So studying is super, super important to being successful throughout high school. So just to say, effective study habits start in the classroom. And the reason I put this in, I think a lot of us get intimidated by studying because we kind of have that thought in our head, like, oh my gosh, is somebody sitting in an empty room with a stack of books and they're studying for 4 hours at a time. And it doesn't have to look like that. There's other ways that we can study and help make sure we move all that information into our long-term memory. So one important thing to note is it starts in the classroom. Paying attention in classroom, coming to school on time, taking good notes, staying focused, staying on task, and not being afraid to ask questions and participate in discussion. A lot of times we're afraid to speak up, but a lot of that learning can happen while we're discussing and working through things verbally. So definitely, if it's something you're not comfortable with, start trying to practice now because it's so important to being successful. Some do's and don'ts of studying. Staying organized is definitely the first one. Being able to pull the information as you need it or know where to go back and look if you have a question. So I put on here, keep an organized binder and use a planner. But now as we move to more tech advanced, and you guys are so much more tech advanced than I am, your phones have calendars, Chromebooks and Google and Outlook all have calendars. So really using them to put your assignments in, put reminders in, being able to look a week ahead. Hey, what do I have this week? Where does my priority need to be? So definitely encourage using those resources. Do make a plan and set a time to study. Whether that's, you have a break between practice and school, or, you have a long bus ride in. When are you going to set time aside to do that? Breaking down tasks into smaller ones. It can be very overwhelming, anxiety producing. So, make a plan and break it down and focus on one thing at a time. Don't cram for hours the night before a test. You're just going to exhaust yourself. You're going to overwhelm your brain with so much information, and it's not going to be effective for you. So don't study late at night and don't study for too long. So how to study? How do we prepare to get ready to study? First, as we talked about before, organizing that subject matter, prioritizing. Math doesn't come easy to you. Maybe that needs to be your priority. You have a big science test this week. For that week, that needs to be priority. So kind of just organizing how you're going to tackle it and prioritizing where you're going to start. Doing your day-to-day tasks, doing your homework, doing the practice problems the teacher send home. That's all part of studying. So staying on top of your day-to-day tasks is going to help you retain information. And then research, revise work for exams. Studying a little bit every day, knowing that you have an upcoming exam, is going to help you be more successful than cram studying. These are some effective methods to studying. So you can read, reread, and highlight your notes. reading your notes out loud. So for some people, reading out loud helps them better than just reading it. You know, if you're like me, you read and you end up not focusing, you got to reread it 100 times. So sometimes reading it out loud enables you to stay focused and memorize it easier. Summarizing your notes, going back to all the notes you took, just writing a quick summary on it, outline or make it graphic versions of the notes. So lists, columns, diagrams, just some different ways to give you different visuals to retain that information. Quiz yourself or ask somebody else to quiz you. If you have a worksheet, you can cover up the answers and just kind of, you know, read through them and try to re-answer it and quiz yourself. Practice with flashcards. And now with the digital world, there's free digital flashcards. Quizlet and Study Stack are two of the resources for that. And rewriting your notes or work over. And this is a continuation of the last slide, looking over old quizzes, returning work to try to fix mistakes, answer study guide questions. So if your teacher gives you a study guide, you know, make sure you do it and answer those questions. That's your teacher's way of saying, this is what's important. This is what's going to be on the test. Talking to somebody else about a topic. So if you're learning in biology about cells, tell somebody else, this is the parts of a cell, break it down to them, speaking to them about it. Tell somebody else about the topic. Oh, sorry, I didn't want, Now how do I go back? Hold on, I'm sorry. I need to go back.
At the bottom, there's a little number. Pull your cursor to the bottom left-hand corner, and you'll see some numbers pop up.
Oh, sorry, I had to move all the, I had your guys' pictures and all down there. All right, sorry about that. I had to move everything around. Look, so now we're going back to looking up parts of the assignment you didn't understand at first. Using online tools. For example, Khan Academy is a good one. I've had to use it even as a parent. Over the last year of virtual learning, I had to help my son with math, which is not my strength. So I've used Khan Academy more times than I like to admit to touch up my own subjects. So they have really good tutorials for everything. And using your travel time to and from school to review notes or listen to summaries, or even use that to do Khan Academy. Our students spend a lot of time traveling. So that's a quick way to tackle some time and get some studying in. Or again, if you're an athlete before practices, using time that you already have into your schedule to try to sneak in some studying. And then lastly, and most importantly, just tapping into your learning style, trying to figure out, are you a visual or auditory or kinesthetic learning? You know, if you're visual, the graphics will come, you know, in handy. If you're auditory, speaking it to somebody or listening to somebody. If you're kinesthetic, doing something like rewriting notes, or even sometimes people study when they're working out, if they're listening to something. So finding ways with your learning style to get all that stuff that you're learning into that long-term memory. And then the last couple slides are just how parents and guardians can help. Transitioning to high school is a very exciting time in students' life, but it also can bring a lot of stress with it. It's a lot of big changes. It's a major life event. So just keeping that in mind as we support our students. So just understanding what are some of those potential stressors. It's a change in school structure. So a lot of students are seeing more teachers maybe than they've ever seen. Every subject you go to, you're going to see a different teacher. Larger buildings, as I think Miss Alexis had talked about. I'm at Mervo. We are going to have about 1,800 students next year. We're projected for 600 incoming freshmen. So it's, you know, for some of us, our freshman class is bigger than some students' current school. So anticipating that, larger buildings, we have up to 5 floors. So sometimes there's some anxiety around navigating a new building. It can potentially be a faster pace. And sometimes there's changing in grading and assessment. So just understanding the different structures and getting used to them can cause stress. Changes in friends, student maybe heading to different schools and neighborhoods than they grew up in. So that can also be, it can be exciting and it can also be stressful. Biological changes. We're at a point students are at a point in their life where there's a lot of changes going on, and it's at different rates. So that can also cause anxiety and stress. And then school pressures. Many students see high school as high stakes and they can put pressure to succeed. You start having the conversations about GPAs, or you're anxious about your GPA or class rank or how you're doing in athletics. So just some additional school pressures come along with adjusting to high school. So how can you support your student? Just tuning in, making sure that you're involved with the school. You know, the term we all use, it takes a village, it surely does. So as a school counselor, what makes us more effective is when we have parents on our team. So attending back to school nights, parent teacher conferences, check in for progress reports and report cards. So like this year, it's June 1st. By now, every student should have had 3 report cards and 4 progress reports. If you haven't already done so, create an IC account. If in Infinite Campus, you can see your students' attendance, you can see their grades, so you can log into there periodically to do check-ins. Making sure the school has up-to-date contact info. Again, in this, this technical world, we're always changing. If you get a new job, your email could change, your emergency contact could change. So reach out to the school and make sure that they have the most up-to-date info. We send a lot of robocalls, we send letters, and we want to make sure that they're getting to you. And keeping an open dialogue with student and teachers. Parents can also identify stressors and provide assurance that you are there for them. So just keeping that open communication with your student, letting them know, that you're there to support them. Encourage involvement. Children that feel more connected to their communities are more likely to succeed. So at our school, again, we have so many different options. Athletics are popular, but we have clubs, we have dance teams, robotics teams that compete. We have chess club, anime. We have clubs within our CTE programs. We have drama clubs, so they put on plays. There's so many things to get involved with, just finding something that you enjoy and that can get you connected to the community. Help your students cultivate time management skills. Build a support network, including school counselors, teachers, admin, community leaders, family members, coaches, and any other, close family and friends that you have, and stay involved. Parents play a key role in the success of the high school transition. And we need you guys to make sure that we can make sure your students are successful. And there is my contact information. If anybody has questions in regards to this or Mervo or anything in general, please take a picture of that and reach out to me anytime.
Thanks so much, Ms. Campbell.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Campbell, for that wonderful, lovely introduction information. Please take note of our contact information. Looks like we're transitioning over to our main screen. So now we are going to transition into the City Schools Office of Work-Based Learning with one of my favorite people in Work-Based Learning, who is Ms. Barbara Jayshrick. Please let me know if I'm saying that incorrectly. I want to make sure I'm saying it right, Barbara. She is on the City Schools Work-Based Learning team, and she's going to give us some really great information about how we can prepare our K-8 students for career readiness with some of our work-based learning approaches. So go ahead, Barbara.
Thank you so much, Alexis. You will notice in my first slide, I actually have the pronunciation of my last name. It's bullet 1. So it's actually, I was in the classroom for 15 years, and I know that DZIE is a challenge to spell and to say. So JJix is the best, J-JIX, like I'm a DJ, I'm not, but that would be my handle or something like that. So JJix is how you pronounce it, but as I always say, call me Barb. That's fine. And I'm so happy to be here with you. I'm so happy to be here with the College and Career Readiness team. And the work-based learning team is new. It's a new part of career readiness. And we are really excited to be building opportunities for students. You may be familiar with career technology education. CTE was mentioned in the previous presentation. And so, that's something that's been around, but the work-based learning team is new. And the way that we explain it is, if CTE is learning to work, then work-based learning is working to learn. And so work-based learning is not something that's just available to CTE pathways. It is for all students. That is part of the strategic vision for the district. It's part of the strategic vision for career readiness, is that that career readiness is for all students, and that there are ways to integrate career awareness at every single grade level. And that's what we're going to sort of talk about today. Another thing to know about me is that I am a proud City Schools parent. I'm in there with ya. I have 4th grade twins. They're at Hampstead Hill. I'm down in Southeast Baltimore. And so I know all about how like intimidating and important and critical it is as a parent to figure out how to navigate this and how to support your young people through their transitions. I have 2, they're twins, but they're very different, boy and a girl, and they are just like have their own needs, and navigating all of that is a challenge. And so I want to be an advocate both from a position of an educator within the system, but also as a parent. And then just a reminder that I'm your employee, right? Like I work for you and I work for the students. And so I love helping young people connect to opportunity. And we'll talk about some of what that means at every level. And then just sort of thinking about what that could mean as your young people transition into those upper grades. I am one of a beautiful team of people, which Alexis, I'm so glad that I'm one of your favorite people, but my team is like all my favorites. So we have our manager, Adenike Akintillo. She sort of was like part of that big strategic vision. And then we have 3 specialists. I'm one of those specialists. And you can see there listed some of the different pathways. So if you didn't even know that these pathways existed, you know, here we go right here. So you can see that I support automotive, construction, engineering, JROTC, maritime, manufacturing. I left off there. I made the slide, so that's my fault, but manufacturing sort of falls under engineering, and that's on there too. But you can see that my other counterparts, Shamira and Albert, we've got everything. We've got everything from agriculture to health to IT. And so all of us are supporting all of those different things. If you, you know that your young person is interested in, EMT firefighter. Well, that falls under Albert, and his contact is right there, and he would be more than happy to have a specific conversation with you. So please feel free to reach out. Or if you're like, well, does somebody do this? You can reach out to me directly, and I will get you to the right person who is specifically supporting that pathway.
Barb, just to clarify what you're saying, let's say we have a student on the call who thinks they might want to do IT, or they think they might want to do engineering. When they go to high school, they would reach out to you or Albert, and you could help them find an experience that would help them identify if that's something they actually want to do. Is that correct?
Yeah, or before, like they don't have to wait. I will have a conversation. We will have conversations with anyone. And the thing about it is that it's important for anybody who's on this call to realize that like you don't have to wait, and there are opportunities throughout. And we'll talk a little bit about that as we get further into it. Like here's what it might look like at this grade level versus here's what it could look like as you get into those upper grades, right? So so some things to think about work-based learning is students are at the center of what we do. And we understand that as we're thinking about work-based learning, some things to know about work-based learning. Work-based learning could include, and we have a spectrum to talk about with this, but it could include any time where there's career exposure, anytime you're learning about a job, you're talking to people that are professionals, or all the way and up to having an internship or apprenticeship as you get to be a high schooler. That's all part of work-based learning. And we know that those kinds of experiences involve lots of partners, right? So at the center of the students, we've got the district that's creating this vision and investing in it. They're investing in the people, they're investing in the programming to make this possible. And then we've got our schools that are partnering with us. We've got community people, we've got business owners that reach out to us and are like, we want to make these opportunities available, or I want to speak to a 3rd grade class. And then we know that our parents and our families are our partners in this. We're not serving you. We're not doing this for you. We are doing this with you. You probably already have a sense of what it is that your young people want to do. And we want to learn with you and keep that at the center of everything that we do. So we're building those, we're like the infrastructure that's building the bridges between all of these different opportunities. We're also identifying the things that are already there and creating maps so that you know that they're there, because you can't want an opportunity you can't see. So part of what we're doing is trying to make this visible, and we'll talk a little bit about how we're trying to make it visible too, right? And then we want to make sure that our students can get up to speed, get where they're going, and they can merge into that opportunity at the speed they need to in order to do it safely. So that's sort of like the metaphor we'll use. So here we go. This is a big one. We want to take some time here. So when we think about our strategy for work-based learning, we start with awareness. So again, you can't want what you can't see. So you have to become aware of the work-based learning opportunities. You have to become aware of careers, right? And that's a lot of what we're doing in the lower grades, but certainly not all we're doing in the lower grades. So we hope that by the end of the 5th grade, students should be career aware, and that's through career days, that's through guest speakers, and we are going to be doing next year Career Spirit Week next year. We're super excited about it. So anyway, we're going to have some career days and some contests around that. So that's awareness. We got to be aware first. Then it's like, oh, I'm aware. I wish to explore, right? So then we move into the next phase of that, and that gets into our K-8 upper grades. So it doesn't mean we're not doing those other things too, but we're adding additional things like career fairs where young people can actually engage and can see additional opportunities. So like JA Inspire, Junior Achievement Inspire, maybe some of your students participated in that. It was like a huge virtual career conference that students could go to this year through their schools. And that was a way for them to explore something that they were interested in. And we also have that exploration happening through our high school choice process, right? So you go to those fairs and you're like, oh my gosh, I know that I want to do this thing. Well, how can I get training in that thing, right? That's part of the exploration process as you're thinking about what high school you're choosing, because now you realize that these pathways and this training exists at these other schools, and that gets into preparation. So by the end of the 10th grade, we want our students to have a career plan. And this is new, just like with the student plans, we want them to have a career plan. We want them to think about what training, what education is next for them. And, you know, a decade ago, or even 5 years ago, you might think about college or career, but that's not how this works. This is college and career, because we know that even after college comes a career, right? So it's not either or, it's just what's your path to that career that gives you purposeful, meaningful work that sustains you and your family, right? So in that preparation piece, oh, Tracy's trying to speed me along. She's like pulling me. No, she's not. She's not hinting. It was an accident. Okay, cool. So for preparation, you know, we're thinking about how are we integrating this kind of career preparedness, financial literacy into coursework, into subject matter areas. How are we actually building new courses, and where would those courses go that have to do with career exploration and exposure? We're building mock interviews and supporting mock interview fairs and that are happening. And then we're also creating internship and apprenticeship fairs so that students can get exposure to internship and apprenticeship and know what they are. P.S. Apprenticeships are awesome. We'll talk about that in just a second. So there's a huge push towards apprenticeships. And something to know too is that employers are as interested in what internships students had as what colleges they went to, if they went. So internships in some ways has become as important, if not more important to some employers as college, which is wild to think about as this other thing. So we work closely with YouthWorks, because actually that's a summer internship. You can think about it that way. YouthWorks, any opportunities there. And then we're integrating financial literacy with our students, because you can get the money, but if you can't keep the money and use the money and invest the money, you can't build your credit. That's a problem, right? So we're taking responsibility for that too. And then we're getting into like, how are we connecting our young people to professionals so that they can have career guidance and mentorship? Because like, if my kid wants to be an engineer, I'm not an engineer. So how am I connecting them with an engineer so they can have guidance from that person? Like, you should do this and you should take this. How are we doing that? And then finally, we arrive in 12th grade at training. And what we hope is that by the time, if you're in those K-8 grades, we're going to have this all worked out by the time you get up to us, right? We're building as we go along. But so in the upper grades, we're thinking about, we want all of our students to have opportunity for internship or apprenticeship. An internship and apprenticeship could both be paid, but apprenticeship has to be paid. And that is the earn as you learn model. And there's something really exciting called Apprenticeship Maryland, which was rolled out about 3 years ago. And that means that our students, by the time they end high school, they have 450 paid hours towards an industry that they are actually interested in. And what's cool about that is that can roll into what's called adult apprenticeship, right? And so there's lots of different apprenticeships. A lot of that has to do with the skilled trades, which there's a lot of need for and a lot of really good pay in. But there's other apprenticeships too in IT and computer science and things like that. So we are thinking about all of that. And that's sort of our continuum that we're presently working with when it comes to what does career preparedness look like at every level. Are there questions about that? Can we pause there? That was a lot of information. Whew. Anyone, any questions in the chat? Let me look. Just work-based learning team is the best. I mean, thanks, Alexis. What if you have any questions? Throw them in there. All right. We will keep trucking. By the way, that's not something we prepare for, but you know, long rig haulers, there's a big demand for that, good money, but that's not one of our pathways. But speaking of trucking, okay, so what might this look like at different stages? Now, I didn't include the lower grades in this, so this is really geared towards middle school and how we're thinking about this in middle school. But in middle school, we like to be thinking about our students doing some career exploration. There are some great assessments that are out there. I happen to put one here that comes from one of our partners, Junior Achievement, but on Naviance and soon to be on maybe Perrin, there are these assessments, career assessments that are actually kind of required as part of the counseling that students get through the counseling office. And so those are things that they can be taking, and we're thinking about how do we integrate those into just the subject areas. So they're figuring out the things that they would like to do. The JA Pathfinder is like about a 12-question assessment that if you wanted to guide your young person to it, they could take that and they could get a quick overview. Hey, based on your answers to this, this is what we think you might be interested in. Check it out. We want them to be discussing with their teachers and counselors in the early grades or in sixth grade interests during their student planning. And so that's being integrated into student planning. And then we would love for them to sign up for the Career Readiness newsletter. And I will be putting the link to that into the chat shortly, because there's lots of opportunities down from elementary and middle school that come through our Career Readiness newsletter, which does come out every month. In the 7th grade, we really do need to be thinking about high school choice. We need to be thinking about pathways that match the career interests, realizing that there's training programs throughout the district that could match what a student is interested in. We would love if a student, rather than landing at a school and then realizing after the fact that they don't have the pathway that they want, we would love for them to be like, okay, this is the pathway that I want. It's at these 3 schools. I'm going to go here because I want to be trained on that pathway. That's what we would love for our middle school students. And then there's lots of summer programming for career exploration. And again, you can find a lot of that in our Career Readiness newsletter. So summer's a great opportunity to be thinking about skill building and also to think about career exploration. And then in the 8th grade, you can keep those careers in mind through the school choice process. You can actually create a resume. People are like, a resume in middle school, but there's resumes that you can create that are skill-based and experience-based rather than work-based. And so that's something that could be done in 8th grade, and we're advocating for that. And then applying to YouthWorks in January, because usually 14 is the earliest that you can apply, and there's a lot of additional programs that are specifically for 14-year-olds. And then in high school, you know, what that looks like is in the 9th grade, it's really about exploring your options. Maybe you land at Carver, Edmondson, and you get to explore the different, pop into those different CTE pathways, find the one that's right for you. Or maybe in 9th grade, you're not at one of those schools that has all those CTE pathways, but you can still explore your options through some of that summer programming or through our district-wide events that we're all obviously putting on. In 10th grade, you're choosing your path and you're working your plan, right? So you've developed some goals, you're moving towards those goals. It's a really sort of a building year. We can think about GPA in both the 9th and 10th grade because there are a lot of opportunities in 11th and 12th grade that unfortunately get cut off from our students because in that critical 9th grade transition year, they weren't thinking about GPA, right? Or they were thinking about GPA the way they thought about it in 8th grade, right? So we want to be thinking about that in the lower grades, 9th and 10th grades, so that we're not cutting ourselves off from opportunity in the upper grades. And then in 11th grade, we really want our young people to be aware of what internship and apprenticeship options are available to them. Some of those you can start in a summer, right? So you could start them in the summer before your 11th grade year or the summer after your 11th grade year. You can jumpstart it with YouthWorks. A lot of them are partnered with YouthWorks. And then by 12th grade, you're thinking about, okay, I did this thing. I went into nursing. Is what I'm doing next like an 18-month credential program, or am I going to nursing school because I'm going for that master's because I want to be in public health? So you're thinking about what training happens next for you after high school, whatever it is. And we just want all of those opportunities to be visible and viable for our students, regardless of what pathway that they're on. So that is sort of like the overview of what it could look like when it comes to career readiness and work-based learning. Some next steps to consider is to sign up for our career readiness newsletter. I do have it pulled up, Tracy. Did you want me to share it? You mentioned you were like, maybe you could share it during.
I think we're tight on time, but
Okay,
I'll
no problem.
put it in the chat.
No problem. All right, so I will put the link to that in the chat for our main newsletter. You can take a look. Our career readiness playlist is something that I think Tracy already shared. And so you can go back and see panels and webinars on all of these different topics. And then the career readiness plan for the whole district is there too, if you want to take a look at that. And that's me with the pronunciation again and my email. You are welcome to reach out to me. I'm happy to connect to parents, students, teachers, counselors, and to have either a one-on-one conversation with you or even an intro session with students. I love to do all of those things. There you go.
Thanks so much, Barbara. All righty. So next we're going to talk about college, which I'm super excited and pumped about. I think that if you were on to text your friends and say they're going to talk about college now and what's expected, text all your friends. But the reason that Ms. Campbell's information about study habits and the reason that Barbara's conversation about figuring out what you want to do kind of maybe even before you go to college or figuring out what you want to study, if college is your pathway, is really important. And we're going to go over why those study skills are so important and why actually figuring out and exploring a career early can actually save you money when you get to college, because you've already done some of that exploration piece. So first, just kind of want to talk about what college actually means. So a lot of the times we talk about what it means to be college and career ready, and most popularly, people think about being college ready means being able to get into college, right? It means that I'm eligible to be accepted to a school. But there's actually a more important way to think about this, because being college ready means having the knowledge, the skills, and the habits to perform well enough to graduate from college. It's not just about getting in, right? It's not about the acceptance alone. It's about doing well in school and something that we call persisting in college, which means that you get in, you do well, and you actually graduate with that degree or certificate, because otherwise you may just be taking out student loans, then you have no degree, right? So you really want to focus on making sure that you're focusing on the graduation piece. Being college ready also means that your high school transcript, which you have heard a few times already, shows proof that you're able to do college level work and do that work well, no matter what pathway you take. So the military is going to ask for your transcript. College is going to ask for your transcripts, apprenticeships, jobs. They're all going to ask for your high school transcript. And the stronger your high school transcript is, the more options you're going to have available to you after high school, and the more money that you can actually get to get into college. So good grades equal scholarship and money and options. And so college is not just a four-year school like Morgan or College Park, right? It means it's cosmetology school. It's getting your CDL license to drive trucks. It's cybersecurity. College is any extended learning that you can do after high school. So I just wanted to make sure that we defined that. So there's two important things that our young people can do today that will have huge impacts on the options and the money that you have after college. So the first is going to be the knowledge and the skills that you can demonstrate on your high school transcript. And the second is going to be the habits that you guys develop over time. So if there is anything that you can take away today as one huge important piece of information, it's going to be this right here. A student's academic transcript is the single most important determinant of the options available to you after high school. So if you want scholarships and if you want to be able to choose from a lot of options, you have to have good grades. And good grades are A's and B's, not C's. And here's why. So let's say that you are a young person and you need to have a very serious surgery, right? Do you want a surgeon working on you who has a C average, who, you know, maybe gets things right, say 70% of the time? Or when you're picking your NFL draft or your team for March Madness, do you want players on your team who only make 70% of their shots and their touchdowns? No, you want someone who makes 80, 90, 100% accuracy and is dependable and will do well. And colleges want the same thing from you. They don't want to give out scholarship money to students for being average, right? You want to get scholarship money for being above average, and above average is an A and a B, right? You don't get into Morgan or Spelman or Hopkins or College Park for being average or being a C student, right? Those are the A's and the B's. And I'm going to call that the 90% rule, right? Because you want to make sure that your attendance is at 90% or above. You're going to school 90% of the days, because colleges are looking at your transcript as an indicator of your preparedness for college. Your transcript tells them that over the last 4 years, you were a student who showed up to school on time, who did his or her homework, who studies for tests, who makes good choices, and that you are a sure bet. They want to draft you. And it's the same with jobs, right? A lot of jobs are going to ask for your transcript because your transcript is a receipt, essentially, of your dependability and your performance. And then the second piece here are the academic habits that you build over time. So as I said, habits take time to build. And so I'm very, very impressed with the amount of proactive students and families that are here tonight, because these are going to be the difference makers. These are going to be the goals that you guys want to set for yourselves next year. So again, number one is going to be attendance. 90% or above is going to get you into good colleges with options for money. 90% attendance is going to get you into a great high school in Baltimore, or help you get into a great high school in Baltimore. 90% attendance can also be linked to job promotions, right? Attendance matters. Showing up for your friends, for your family, for school, it matters, because you can't get good grades if you're not there. So homework completion, 90 to 100% of your homework needs to be completed. Homework, attendance, participating in class, those are all actually professional skills that you're building, right? It's the same thing as showing up to work on time. It's the same thing as being a dependable teammate, right? You need to hand in homework and hand in homework on time, because in college, you don't get extra time, right? At a job, you don't get second or third or fourth chances. You get fired, right? And I know that some of this sounds rather harsh, but it's really important to be honest and to be straight up with you, because these academic habits and expectations take time to build, and they will elevate you to greatness, or they will drag you down when it comes to those scholarships and those college applications. And so you guys have put yourself in a position where you can plan early and you can practice these skills. And so keep setting those goals for yourself. Remember, 90% or more for everything: attendance, homework. Your core classes are going to be English, math, science, social studies, histories, and a foreign language. A college does not look at your A in gym the same way that they're going to look at your A in English, right? They want to know that students coming into their school can read and can write and can compute numbers, right? So if you think that you might want to be a nurse, when a college looks at your transcript, you can't have failed biology, right? So if even scientists, they also need to know how to read and write and publish. So if you have a younger sibling, or you are a parent of a young elementary school student, how often are you reading to them? How often are you guys reading? Continue to focus on those literacy skills. And then again, the timeliness and the accountability pieces are really important. Can't emphasize that enough. And that was also detailed by Ms. Campbell. So let's fast forward a bit. I see the chat is going, but I'm going to assume that Master Mavis Jackson is taking care of those questions. So to fast forward a little bit, when you guys are senior in high school and you start researching colleges, you are going to determine which college is a good academic, social, and financial fit for you and your family. And you're going to have options because you've been following the 90% rule. So you want to apply when you get to senior year to about 6 to 10 colleges. And that might feel like a lot, but let's say that you apply to 6 and then you get into 3 and only 1 gives you money, right? You want to have options. Or maybe you apply to a few colleges in a career program or a few career programs in the military, right? Just give yourself those options. And whether you're applying to college, the military, grads to careers, whatever have it be, the first thing you'll do is send that copy of your transcript to the schools. Remember, the single most important factor. You're also going to be asked to write essays to help the college contextualize your life. So I like to say that colleges don't compare apples to oranges. They're not going to compare a student who goes to school in Miami, Florida, next to a student who goes to school in Baltimore City. They know that Baltimore is a unique community, and so they read applications within the context of where they're coming from. And in that essay, the college is going to want to hear about who you are as a person. They want to hear your voice, your perspective about how you see the world, be authentic with it. And they want to know really who is the individual that we're accepting into our community. And then they're also going to ask for letters of recommendation from adults like teachers and school counselors who speak about who you are as a student, right? About how you learn in class. Do you raise your hand? Do you show up in time? Do you ask questions? How do you work in groups? Are you someone who just likes to work alone? And then you as a student will also submit a resume or a list of extracurricular activities that you've done in high school to show the college what you do with your time outside of school. Because a college does not want a student who is just going to sit in their dorm and take a nap and eat hot Cheetos all day, right? They want a student who's going to be engaged on their college campus, who's going to join a club or a sport or a sorority, who likes to volunteer, who's involved in church, who advocates for social justice, who helps at home, whatever it is. There are no wrong answers. Own who you are. They just want to see how you're engaged in your community. And so as you guys begin thinking about those things right now, really want to put emphasis on academic habits and expectations, getting involved and beginning to think about what you enjoy, taking advantage of those work-based learning opportunities that Barbara talked about. And again, start to make ideas, take those career assessments around what type of fields you might like. And then to also just think about what you enjoy doing after school. I used to think that leadership was only being SGA president or captain of the team, but I like volunteering and that's leadership too. And so the earlier you can try things and identify what you like and don't like, again, the more time you will save in college identifying what you want to study. And so here are a few things I do want to be cognizant of time that you can do to explore careers and careers and colleges. So again, continue exploring the careers in the ways we already identified. The other things you can do is use Naviance beginning in the 6th grade. You can take an assessment where it'll just like ask you about your different strengths and it'll tell you based on your strengths that you've identified, these are the types of careers you might want to consider. You can take a career interest inventory that says like, I like working outside. I like working with my hands. I like working at a desk. And you answer all these questions and it spits out and it says, here's a few careers you could identify with. The other thing you can do is take a virtual college tour. So UVisit is a really great opportunity where you can go on and you can take like virtual tours. Think of like a tour guide that has like a GoPro on their head and they just walk around and give you that virtual tour. That's a great opportunity. If you are a parent and you have the ability to take a student, or if you can get yourself there, if you are a student, go to Morgan, go to CCBC, go to Hopkins, schedule a tour with the admissions office. They're completely free. And it will really help you understand what you like and what you don't like in schools. Do you like a big school, a small school, a historically Black college, a rural campus, an urban campus? Do you want to go to school that has 10,000 students or 3,000 students? And as you build those good habits and as you sustain that 90% attendance in grades and homework, you're going to have a number of pathways to choose from after high school, because all of this is about empowering you to be the chooser in this process. Step away from this idea that college is about me being chosen. You are the chooser. And then lastly here, continuing to think about scholarships. So scholarships are something, not the FAFSA. The FAFSA you will only do as a senior, but there are scholarships for younger students. And you can win scholarships for anything. You can win a scholarship for being left-handed, for having a disability or an illness, for having a talent, or for doing community service. And so here are a few websites. I believe they're down here that you guys can look at to begin looking for scholarships now. And backing back up. Once you actually get through school, you can also think about the other options available to you. So when you're picking a high school, you can also think about whether you want a school with a CTE program, whether you want a school that offers dual enrollment classes, which means you can take an English class in high school, and you can also at the same time have it actually be a college class. There's a lot of students that also think that they can only get money by playing sports. And the best way to actually get money for college is through your GPA. But it's important to notify that students in Baltimore, in order to play a sport in Baltimore, you only need to have a 2.0 GPA. But to be considered for the NCAA, you have to have a 2.3 GPA and take very specific courses. And again, hit that 90% completion, and you should be good to go. But you can always sign up with the NCAA Eligibility Center. Mavis might be able to put the link in the chat for us if you want to learn a little bit more about that, if you think that you want to play sports in school. And then once you get through school, high school, options available to you after high school. You can go to 2-year school, a 4-year school, the apprenticeships that Barbara talked about. There's Grads to Careers, which coordinates a lot of different work-based learning opportunities in the city for Baltimore students. You can look at short-term credentials. Like if you want to be a paramedic, you can do that by joining the fire department. You can join that by getting a military career and being a medic in the military. You can also do that by going to BCCC and taking the medic license exam and courses. And so there's multiple pathways to the same destination. And so the goal here today in these quick few minutes is to just introduce you to what those are. And to start kind of having your brain think through what your additional questions are and all the adults who you can speak to help you get there. Again, I already talked a little bit about money and then some just additional tools and tips to connect with. If you guys have Instagram, and you can find at the Nav Center _BeMore. The Navigator Center offers a number of just like weekly posts about college and career tips and did you knows and different things like that that are really helpful to follow. And then we already put the CCR website. It is right here. But the CCR website is, is under construction. But we are soon going to have information for all K-8 students available on the website as well, where you can find all of these pieces of information available to you. Mavis, did we get everything that was in the chat? Mavis?
Tracy, I think so. I've been monitoring the chat as well. I haven't seen any questions.
Okay, awesome. So I am going to stop recording because we have Maryland 529 here. I'm going to stay on. Obviously, we are here to answer questions that you have about college, but we are going to, again, stop recording, and Andrew is going to be able to take over. Does that sound great, Andrew?
It sounds great.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Hey, everybody.